Hey everybody! Welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls. You'll find that we're back in Orlando, as you can see, but we're in a bit of a different area. If you remember from the Rafter episode, that room, or this chapel that's over here, more of a cathedral really, had a giant painting in it, and I think we should really check that out. Some things I should probably mention first are that I upgraded my armor a little bit. Basically just bought a bunch of large titanite chunks, or large titanite shards, from the blacksmith, the giant blacksmith, and even threw a chunk into this dingy robe, because we're gonna get the best out of our dingy robes, if you ask me. That's what we should do. And since I was there, I also went and picked up a ring. Alright, and since we're here... I can totally get to this chest. Get the hawk ring. Of course, now I kind of have to get out. There we go. Beautiful, I'm good at this. I'll flash this on the screen. I'm very good at editing. I'm sure I'll be able to figure out a nice way to do that as I awkwardly talk over it. But that ring was the Hawk's ring. Hawk ring. I just lost. Damn it. I can do this. There you go. Similar to the wolf ring. One of the special rings granted to the 4 Knights of Gwyn. The Hawk ring belonged to Hawkeye Goff. Damn it. Who led the Great Archers. Boosts bow range so that arrows fly like they were shot by Go's great bow, which took down high-flying dragons. Hawkeye Go is an interesting character, but I think we'll get into that a bit later. I do like that it happened to be behind this giant, though, because it hints at something that will become fairly obvious once we get to it, but I think it's really clever where they placed it, basically. And I think that's all we got for now, so let's go take a look at that portrait. Be wary of left. Yes, I can't remember if we got any gear items from this, but these guys who are also up in the rafters are the Painting Guardians. They attack very quickly and they're very dodgy, but now that we're on the ground, it isn't quite as bad. You'll also remember that we cut down that chandelier God knows how long ago, so we finally get to get the item out of it. In general, one-on-one, these guys aren't nearly so bad, but when a bunch of them start attacking you at once, it gets a little dicey. Ooh. Interesting that he survived that. So, basically, you'll want to try to kite these guys out one at a time. Yeah, they're really dodgy, so a big weapon like this might be a little dangerous, but we do so much damage with it that I'm willing to take the risk. Anything that finishes the fight quicker, you know? They have quite large aggro ranges because they tend to throw daggers at you. I don't want to, like, get up in his business and end up aggroing another one. There we go. We do bonus damage when they're attacking, basically. This became a much more pronounced mechanic in Dark Souls 2, but it exists in 1, where, like, if you're attacking, you will take more damage, or, you know, otherwise open, you'll take more damage than you would otherwise. Woo! Yeah, it's good to be quick and dodgy around these guys, because their big combos will actually just fuck you up. Of course, if they refuse to attack... Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh dear. Well, now I've aggroed 2 of them, so let's hope I can finish one off quickly. I should probably be going for these because I think that exploits their AI a little bit better. The heavy attacks right here. Yeah, let's just sneak this up. I don't really think there's any way to avoid aggroing all these dudes. So, we'll take them on. I think we can't get the set from these guys because that armor drops in a specific place, but we can get their weapons, and we might already have. That's just a throwing knife. Nice. Yeah, they do a lot of, like, straight back and forth attacks on you, so a lot of those attacks can, or a lot of your vertical attacks actually work really well on them, where they wouldn't necessarily on a lot of other enemies. Like, they're very dodgy, but a lot of enemies in this game can only dodge, like, 8 directionally in the same way that you can. It's kind of weird. It was fixed in Dark Souls 2, I think. That said, over here, there is a certain set. The Black Iron set. We may recognize it from our fight with the Iron Golem, because we've actually found the final resting place of Iron Tarkus. This isn't what I want. There we go. It is one of the heaviest sets in the game, one of the most powerful heavy armor sets in the game. And it's huge. Look at that, 15 weight. I think only Havel's set and maybe 1 or 2 others are bigger than it. It's pretty fucking big. Armor of Black Iron Tarkus, a knight known for his great strength. Built of a special black iron and providing strong defense, notably against fire, but so terribly heavy to be unwieldy to all but Tarkus himself. It's a pretty good set, but most people who go for a build that spec into this will usually just jump up straight to Tarkus, or just straight to Havel's armor, which is even bigger and heavier. They both have pretty high fire resistance, so a lot of the time it's not necessarily worth it. I'm sure someone can give me a good reason to use Havel's or Tarkus's armor and set, though, other than the fact that it looks freaking awesome. We also got the Black Iron Great Shield. Great Shield of the mighty Knight Tarkus. Built of special black iron, and even heavier than Knight Baranecki's Tower Shield. Especially resistant to fire attacks and effective for shield bashing. This is also a great shield, one of the few in the game, which means that it is extremely stable. Like, we have put 8 shards into the stability of our Eagle Shield, and this one is actually fairly close to it. But of course, the thing that makes the Eagle Shield incredible is that it has 6 weight versus the 16 weight of the Black Iron Great Shield. It's in the same kind of camp as the ridiculous Havel's Great Shield, which has 10 more weight even than this one. So it's kind of the intermediate one, for where you're speccing into a big heavy character, but not that heavy. It is interesting that we find Havel's Tarkus's corpse down here, and I like to think the implication is that he did make it down into Honorlando, even though it was said that, even though the legends say that no one has ever made it here, it seems Tarkus's corpse here proves that he did make it here. But the location of it sort of implies that a big heavy man like Tarkus might not have been able to navigate these rafters. I really like that implication. It's not, 100% confirmed or anything, but I like to think that that was the reason that he couldn't. I should actually check if I ever got a painted sword, because it's relevant here, obviously. Okay, looks like I didn't. Well, we'll have to pick one up at some point, because its definition is relevant to us. I may also just scrolled past it, because I was trying to concentrate on what I was reading. Anyway, there's only one thing left in the room, and it's an interesting painting. We see a bridge over there. We see kind of, I guess, a ruined castle kind of thing in a black and white environment. Let's see if we can get a closer look at this thing. That is such a good cutscene. That's why you never touch paintings at museums. It never ends well for you. Welcome to the painted world of Ariamis. As you can see, we start on that bridge, and there's really only one path for us to go here. This whole place is quite interesting. It seems like there's a single bridge leading to what is essentially an island of a mountain. Very much implies that this is the only way to get across here, and even this is looking like it's in a bit of disrepair. For the record, you can only get into the painted world if you have the peculiar doll, which we found in our cell back in the Undead Asylum. If you remember, that said, there was once an abomination who had no place in this world. She clutched this doll tightly, and is eventually drawn into a cold and lonely painted world. So it seems we've found that painted world, and perhaps that means we're going to find that abomination. It looks like there's a path over here, and you kinda can, but I don't recall if there's anything over here. Yeah, I don't think so, honestly. Yeah, there we go. I remember always trying to go on that, and I have occasionally fallen off. It's kind of unfortunate. So, really, there's only one path to go on, and we even find a bonfire over here. Kind of hear some crows flapping around over here on top of these bodies on spikes. The painted world is one of the most unique areas in the game, both in its style and presentation, and also in the way it's designed as a level. We're going to be exploring as much of it as I can recall, because there may be some parts where I missed something esoteric. First, though, I want to kindle this bonfire, because something you might realize is that we're trapped here. This bonfire is cut off from the others. Cannot warp. There's only a few places in the game this happens, and this is one of them. The only way out of the painted world is through it. Once you've gone into here, you actually are stuck here, so I really hope you brought a fire weapon. We'll start with that. Pop in some humanity. While we're at it, kindle the bonfire. The 10 Estus flasks will absolutely be worth it here. So, the painted world, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it was the very first level designed for this game. As such, it's sort of completely self-contained, and everything we do on this little isolated mountain ruined fortress. And it makes it so that it's very, very interconnected. We'll constantly be opening up shortcuts like this. And it's definitely one of my favorite levels in the game, just for how tightly the whole thing is designed. It kind of feels more like a Demon Souls level than a Dark Souls level at first glance, because everything is tightly interconnected. You sort of warp into it and it's separate from everything else, where Dark Souls has a lot of big interconnected areas. But the big thing about the painted world, and as we can see here, there's kind of another creepy looking area out there, is that the level is very interconnected with itself. And there's a very definite path and sense of progress that you're supposed to make going through this level. Yeah, that guy is also designed to draw you out and make you not expect this hollow here. You'll notice that we're fighting some of those really early game hollows, and being put into situations that really feel like they would fit in better with the start of this game rather than where we're at right now. And I think that a lot of that really shows the earliness and maybe some of the roughness of this level. Let's see, we seem to have two paths to go this way. One is the archer, the other is these hollows here. Our Man Serpent Greatsword is really good for the crowd control on these weaker guys. But of course, they're not going to be the only ones that we find in this painted world. Being a proof of concept of sorts, we'll actually find quite a few other types of enemies. Like these extremely powerful crow soldiers? Yeah, when they jump up like that, run. They are about to jump on your head. And they do a lot of damage. We're gonna have to come back up here for that. These enemies are extremely unsettling, and frankly, there's a lot in the painted world that is extremely unsettling. The implications of the painted world, and especially of that doll that we saw, is that it seems to have been a place where the gods, because obviously they built a cathedral to it, you know, Gwyn and his cadre, sent things that they considered to be unholy or that, you know, were blasphemous. So, this abomination that we heard about from the doll and these crow monsters, you find a lot of things in the painted world that really don't appear anywhere else in the game. And a lot of the reason for that is because they are unholy things, you know, blasphemous to the gods. Alright, let's see if we can do a little better on these crow soldiers this time. I'm not 100% sure, they're a bit tough. In fact, I might actually switch to the other weapon I brought here, our trusty butcher's knife, to see if that's a little bit more effective. Not nearly as much damage. The nice thing is they will follow you when they do that jump, but it's a bit of an awkward follow. Just be very careful. Also, they don't usually chain like this aggressively. God, they do so much damage to me. They do stagger really easily. I think I'm better off just trying to dodge those giant swings. Oh dear. I'm a little bit lucky there. Oh god. So yeah, this is what happens when you let them land on you. They basically peck your eyes out. I think we're gonna get our souls back and just leave these two be. We're gonna have to get a bit more comfortable fighting them, but I think that for now they can win this round.